All right, and welcome to the first stream on the Aussie Expat Watchers channel. We have dilly-daddled about. This won't be a regular thing, but I just found this thread on 4chan Business that was just so hilarious, with varying degrees of cope, truth, lies, and other disreputable and racist things. So I'm not going to be able to repeat everything as funny as everything is. But I brought in a few guests here. Who we got here? We've got our friend Meech and young Brando. Say hey, hi guys.
Hey, Oz, how are you?
Good,
Greetings.
thank you. What are we wearing? I got an Explorer too. We're wearing Rolex today. We're wearing Rolex.
I'm actually just wearing the SRPE 03 King Turtle Seiko.
Oh, okay. We got a Chad here who doesn't think he needs a Rolex to pull. Do you want to share your hat? It is relevant.
Sure. I said I'm not getting sex, so I might as well get the hat. I'm not getting any sex, so I can at least cope in this part.
Meech, what have you got today?
I got the old Batgirl on, the GMT.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
You know how it goes. We are the master watch wearers.
Right.
So, yeah.
There's definitely a lot of people in this thread. So let me pull it up at this. There we go. So this thread kicks off with a beautiful bluesy. This looks like a nice modern reference. None of that old shit. If you don't have a Rolex in modern times, you have zero soft power in terms of business, work, and dating. So first of all, this is the wrong forum to be doing this on. Rolex, talking about Rolexes on 4chan Business. It's basically WallStreetBets. There's going to be people in here who have like no money because they lost it all in crypto. They have a lot of money because they gained it all in crypto. And there's going to be some old bastards who did it in other various ways. But it is an interesting place to try and have this conversation. There's a lot of interesting responses. So just going forward, I'm not going to be able to repeat everything you see on screen. I'm not going to attempt to censor what's literally on screen. The place is known for being nasty and vicious and racist. I won't repeat things that don't need to be repeated, but I'm not going to remove them from the
I
screen.
disavow in advance. I disavow. I can't stand for this.
Yeah, but sometimes like the racism is added for color, so I may repeat what they're roughly saying, but not.
Is that pun
not
intended,
color.
Oz?
Color?
Yeah, pun intended, I guess. So the OP's comment, first of all, just reacting to that, I don't even know what he's on about, but maybe this is a troll. It's a good troll to kick off with, certainly a good thread. But soft power, that's a concept I only know in terms of like nation states. Like soft power is basically like cultural influence as opposed to military or hard wrangling. It's sort of like cultural influence. And I had to look it up. Like soft power isn't used in personal terms like this. So can we agree that what he's talking about here is kind of meaningless, but I also kind of understand what he's trying to get to as well.
I actually, what I would be wondering about is what he means with the opposite. What would be hard power in business, etc., if expressions of wealth qualifies as soft power?
Meech, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an obscure reference here. And yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe word it a little bit better.
Yeah. All right. First post comes up pointing out that a good Bloomberg article that basically Rolex and Patek market is friggin' dead. He says not buying your bag. So straight up, good finance post. This is truth, right? Basically everything we've been looking at, bar a few select models here and there, basically been sliding.
Yeah, that's a recent piece from late June, and they basically anchor those findings in the subdial index, which has taken, I think, like a 20% hit, 20% drop in the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, especially the things that really gained. So if you start mentioning like 5711, certainly Daytonas, like, I mean, I'm not crying about having a Panda Daytona, but you know, it went from 50 down to about 38. And these are top of the market numbers, as in peak number from the most premium gray seller. Maybe someone sold one that high. Now, even when it was 50, someone could have got it at say 42 and in the same condition. So we're not comparing apples to apples, but sure enough, pretty much everything's rolling down, including AP. So good truth bomb to start off with. Meet, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just take the easy way out and agree on that one. I guess I don't really have much to comment on that.
Yeah, it's good. We're starting off strong. You know, we said don't get me to buy your bag, granddad. Basically.
By the way,
No.
it happens to the best of us, right? Eric just was selling, Eric Wind is selling a two-tone jumbo 3700 original Patek
Wow.
motor that he bought for more than $90,000 at the height of
Okay.
the market, and it's now on hold, and he had it listed most recently at 49,000.
Wow.
So imagine a dealer of established stature taking that kind of hit on a single piece.
Yeah. I can imagine he bought it at a low price because he's a reputable dealer. He doesn't have to pay customers a premium to, you know, get the deal done. Amazing. So this one's a good one. This is why I got you single guys out here. None of the 21-year-olds I date care about my watch. So number one, he says he has a watch, but they don't care about it. I'm happily married, so you tell me.
Nietzsche, you want to go first?
Yeah, Meech.
I don't know. I think it's probably better that you go, Lord, first, because I live in an area, or rather, I go to an area that really lives up to that stereotype, I guess. So I'm probably a little bit more biased on that.
Well, I mean, first of all, in the most general sense, it sounds like I see your cope and I raise it. You know, I will, I'll play your cope with my cope.
Yeah.
Overall, of course, you know, no one that you would want to date, you know, on a more stable, long-term basis, should not ideally base their judgment of you on one thing you wear or one thing you don't wear, the car you drive, the car you don't drive, etc. But
100%.
I think to think, especially coming from a guy like that, who clearly takes pride in dating young, for him to think that they don't actually look at his wrist, that they don't actually look at his car, that they don't actually look at the restaurants he takes them, that sounds like major cope to me. Like, as if he's trying to say, they date me for who I really am. Deep down inside, they don't look at my body. Don't be. No 21-year-old would date a 40-plus Wall Street guy because they are a nice guy. So it sounds major cope to me. Of course, no one looks at the wristwatch to decide who they are going to date. But to think that it has nothing to do with how people perceive you, I think it's a little foolish.
Yeah, Meech?
Yeah, see, this is where things get a little bit more interesting, I guess. So, like I said, I live in a college town, right? Or not live in college town. I drink in college town, right? So, being up with the Joneses is kind of the norm. So, I've said this before. Usually, the girls will strut around their Louis Vuitton, Usually it's Louis Vuitton. Most of them can't afford Hermes. The Gucci belts, they'll be decked out to the nine. The guys, of course, they'll be wearing usually fake jewelry, right? The gold-plated gold chains, gold-plated watches, the backwards hats, So around here, your watch does definitely get noticed, especially by younger crowds, because I've worn my bluesy, and the bluesy is a loud, in-your-face watch, right? It says "fuck you, got money, get the fuck out of my way." So to say I've gotten dates off of it, no, but it's definitely been a topic of conversation during dates. That's for sure. And I've also had it
Really?
as topic
How
of
does that come up?
conversation when I'm talking to the other patrons of the bar. But again, yeah. But you got to remember though, like I said, I drink in a town in which your social credit actually really does matter. So like having like who's got the best car, who's got the best tan, who's got the best fake tits, all that. It's definitely being everyone's one upping up in that area. So
Interesting. So, I mean, how does it come up in say a date? Like, how does it how does that happen?
Meech?
Do we lose you?
I want to. It's not a coincidence that they used the picture of the bluesy, right?
Right. Right. So the main thing that I want to add to this is like 21's like really young, like here's me old guy turned 40, but the reality is you have to be exposed at some point to like the value of these things, right? And in general, not many people are being exposed to what these are. Like if you ask like most people, they have no idea how much a Rolex is worth, especially a steel one. But they may still visually, if you have gold, it's still gold, right? So unless it's gaudy, a lot of these people won't even think that it's Rolex. And I think there's a theme throughout the thread where a lot of people assume that it's not a Rolex or people aren't wearing Rolex because they assume it's a gold watch, that they're looking for a gold watch. And say, oh, no one wears gold watches. And that's what they're substituting for the term of Rolex.
I think you make a really good point, and that's why I wanted to broaden that statement as much as I could right when I first approached it, because, cool enough. A lot of people don't know or care about watches. They certainly would not be, even if they know what Rolex is, they won't be able to separate out Breguet from Audemars Piguet or Patek from Jaeger-LeCoultre, right? But the same person, especially if that is supposed to be a flex, I date a 21-year-old, to think that they don't, you don't put on a certain game to be recognized by the kind of person you are chasing romantically. I think that's either extremely naive or it is cope. If he is trying to say, like the first guy, hey, that's like investing in handbags. I'd rather drive my sports car or something. More power to him. If that gets him noticed. But it seems like, it's like you said, maybe this is one of those guys who lost all his money in crypto. So,
yeah. Well, he's saying he has the watch, but I mean, maybe it's a tag. Maybe we can follow him a little later. Let's move on a little bit. Responding to OP, we've got I have abs, kill yourself, fat boy. So we've got young Brando there working out, trying to get into peak fitness, peak shape.
Also, I wanna ask you, should I post a half naked picture of myself in weight?
No.
On
not our intended audience.
And I have abs, fat boy. But I wouldn't say that. I'm not, as you know, I'm not body shaming anyone. I'm not fat shaming, except for Air King Ben, who's really a fat fuck.
I think this one's a little bit of truth. That being said, what women look for in men is, they can overlook a lot of things, unfortunately. So it's not a surefire way of attracting the girls, but it's not a bad start. So this one I thought was interesting. This was widely responded to by a lot of people, and that was I'm an upper middle class white guy who spent his entire life around upper middle class and upper class white people, and none of them wear expensive watches. This is both true and not true, I think. I think it's true in that, yeah, a lot of people who have significant money have just never really been introduced to watches. It just hasn't come across their radar as something that they're really into. I would think of like an example of that might be, say, like Joe Rogan, like who famously has a thing where he just says like watches are just crazy, where, there's lots of money, but I don't understand that. And then, fast forward 5 years and he's collecting watches, So the reality is that, yeah, just because you have money doesn't mean you automatically start getting, luxury watches. So in some way it's true. It's not like the signifier. Like if someone's truly wealthy, oh, surely they have a nice watch. It's not true. But at the same time, I find it hard to say that you would say that none of them wear expensive watches. Now, this might not be literal, but I take it as literal, and he's just clearly not observant, I would say, or his understanding of what an expensive watch is a gold watch.
Yeah, I call Cope on this one. Actually, I will read it literally.
Yeah.
In that case, I might even agree. When you say I've been upper middle class and I've been around similar kinds of people, and none of them wear expensive watches. So you can say yes.
Yeah.
That a lot of these people, especially if they're old money, would probably be wearing a wristwatch, but it would be a very safe choice according to the standards of the time of purchase. Like if it is a watch they got themselves or they inherited from the 80s, it would be a two-tone Rolex, Datejust, for example.
Right. Typically, it's very old. Like they picked up the Datejust at some point 2-3 decades ago, and that's what they still have, and they still enjoy it immensely. That's typically true.
Or they inherited a Cartier from their grandma, or they have a Patek Philippe Calatrava which was dad's. So yes, you can say people of certain wealth, although it's not always true. I don't think that's a rule. I have been around a lot of old money and new money people who spend an inordinate amount of money on watches. Whether they necessarily top them up, off as expensive pieces is another topic of conversation, but they certainly have expensive watches. But all of that being said, I guess that may have been his experience. Like you said, no one would care about the price tag, but they almost always would own, and on special occasions at least, wear that one good wristwatch they have.
Right. Yeah. I can't imagine a nice, well-to-do middle-class lady not having a Cartier somewhere knocking about in a drawer somewhere, basically, and it comes out when she wants to feel special, basically. So yeah, it's true, but also, yeah, very much not true on that one. Here we go. I'll say it depends on where you are. Here in the Northeast, rich boomers wear them, but young people can't justify it with today's economy. I think that's true. That's very true. There's a big generational aspect that actually is really critical to all collectibles. I think watches are doing a reasonable job of trying to pass the baton to younger generations. But I must say, these watches are getting very expensive. It's like it will price out literally most people in their youth. It's just like, I think I could have barely swung buying a Submariner when I was, a yuppie. And I don't think it's the case anymore. The way prices are right now, I don't think it's even feasible as a yuppie to have gotten one.
I think, I hate to be the nuance guy now that we lost our color commentator, who apparently doesn't have a good connection.
Yeah, he sounds like he was on the move.
I do think about that scenario. Oz, if I were to start from absolute scratch, not knowing anything about the watches that I've accumulated over the last 2 decades, not knowing anything at all, I feel like I would have a hard time justifying buying new anything above $5,000. So I would probably end up getting a Tudor Pelagos and be done with it probably if I were starting today.
Yeah, I think so. This one was particularly funny. Rolex is not good. I garnished myself with 24 karat gold. My chain alone is worth 10K. This is quite funny. Like, number one, there aren't that many, at least modern Rolexes, that are worth less than 10K. So I think he's underestimating how much of a flex the Rolex is compared to what he's got. And he's clearly into intrinsic value here, which is just fine. That's okay.
I thought that was an ironic comment, honestly, when I first read it. Like, if you are trying to show off, why not just wear something around your neck and make it as blingy as possible?
Right.
That would be the charitable reading of that.
Yeah. Here we go. We've got, you want to be more fashionable? What's the matter, Miyuki? Kei-chan's a girl, so I wanted her to have the freedom to be fashionable. That's why I've been so frugal. Here, take this. This watch? If only, in that case, this is the moon watch, and the most fashionable. Out of everything I own, it is the most expensive. I have to say, this is just basically every Omega owner. They think they have the best watch ever made, and say it with this kind of look at his face. It's like, just looking down on the paws, apparently.
The kind of self that emanates from an uncritical Omega fan. It's almost as insufferable as us Rolex fanboys.
Right. It really isn't matched. It isn't matched. Like, you can piss off Rolex fans. They won't be as butthurt.
Yeah, I think the problem is, like you said, the Rolex fanboys' insecurities are elsewhere, not necessarily in the horological fine points of a particular timepiece. So you can't break them by just dissing their watch.
Right.
But I want to say, again, kind of, you can't have it both ways, because for me, the moon watch is, in a way, much like some other icons, it's like the quintessential tool watch. It's like the platonic ideal of a watch made for a specific purpose.
Right. Now, that story is very important to people, but I think one of the issues is that, a story is a story and a watch is a watch, ultimately. And there's different watches out there. It's really that simple. Like, a story doesn't plant that watch as being the best watch forever. That being said, I want to get an Ed White. I want a 321, a real Speedmaster, so I can lord it over the other Speedmaster owners who will forever be just wearing cheap knockoffs.
Well, what I wanted to say, though, I think there's there's an incongruity between that claim. You know, it's the best watch, it's the toolest tool watch that has ever tooled, and in the words of this cartoon, it's also the most fashionable thing that I own. I think,
Right.
unless you are doing an ironic statement, along with a no-date Submariner, which I probably own, probably the Speedmaster, the Moonwatch, is one of the most unfashionable watches. In fact, it makes no statement whatsoever in terms of style. It's a blank canvas. So
It's very vanilla. Yeah.
if you can't define it as one thing, that would be fashionable. It's not fashionable.
Yes, yeah. That. I mean, I'm a Speedmaster owner, and the closest thing, the watch that I consider closest, in terms of wearability and just how and where you use it, is really my Explorer, and it's very bland watch ultimately, and some of its appeal is really in that blandness and that it can be a wear it everywhere type thing, but it really doesn't make much of a statement at all. Which is fine. Okay, it's fine, but that doesn't make it the best watch. It's really that simple. All right, enough with the Speedmaster bashing. We're on to tag. So here we go. For me, it's tag. You haven't really made it until you've got yourself a tag. Ryan Gosling, fantastic. Looking good. Another one here, I prefer Omega. Someone's saying he's got a gigantic head. Okay, I don't know. This one didn't make any sense. OP can't get laid without a watch. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Okay. Go ahead.
Honestly, though, Oz, isn't that the perfect way to christen a new watch? You need to be. Aren't we always talking about the most cherished memories that we make with our watches? If you're not making love with your watch, or if you're not at least fucking with your wristwatch on, why do you even own it?
I do agree. So I'm definitely agree with like the Archie's idea. You go out there, you go to like the 3 floors of Hawes, test out the automatic winding. Always a pleasure. This one, I'm 36 years old, wear a G-Shock and drive a Hyundai Sonata Elite. Always going for the high-end model there, okay. I've got the second date lined up tonight with a 20-year-old leggy brunette with bright blue eyes. Material things are ultimately coping mechanism. Women really only care about the things you have no control over. That's to say bone structure, height, genetics. Because subconsciously they want genetics for their children, of course. This guy's correct, but also not correct. I mean, if you really have like the quadrifecta of these things that are super appealing, and you're in good condition, I'm guessing you can be. Like there was a really good meme like 5 years ago of like a mugshot of this criminal, and all the women were swooning over him. But then he became a model, and then he married a billionaire, I think. So, you could have all those things.
I like this black pill approach to the whole thing, but I don't know where he's coming from, right? Is he the incel who envies the superior bone structure and the perfect square jaw and the great genes of the Giga Chads? Or is he the Giga Chad who, drives a Toyota and wears a Casio, which...
He's not even smart enough to drive a Toyota. So that was the thing that threw me off. Is like, where's the genetics here? He's like, where's the brain power?
What does he drive again? I don't know anything.
It's a Hyundai Sonata. It's not the worst choice. It's just it isn't a Toyota for me.
That's true. Nothing nationalistic there, but I do like a Toyota better than a Hyundai.
Okay, so we've got this one in response to saying that rich people don't wear expensive watches, said this, something like a Tudor is much more classy, but even then, why bother? Too fancy a watch just indicates insecurities or desperation to impress others. On the Tudor comment, I love Tudor. I don't know what to say about that, but just on the whole, too fancy a watch just indicates insecurities and desperation to impress others. Maybe that's true. Maybe it is. I don't go out very often with the watches, so I don't really think anyone's really impressed by what I'm wearing, especially in the company that I keep. But you know what? I'm not going to discount that these are outward symbols. It's sort of like if you wear a nice suit, is that for you or for everyone else? I don't know. Does it make a difference?
Look, I don't want to engage in too much brosophy here, be an armchair philosopher or elliptical machine philosopher, but I strongly believe in Rousseau's fundamental thesis in the Discourse on Inequality, which simply means that when you enter civilization, as long as you exist in society, you are cursed to see yourself through the eyes of others. So for me, it's delusional to think that as an individual within a society, you really don't care at all about how others perceive you. So for me, this kind of comment is one of those to signal, hey, I'm more intelligent than you are. But if you look at this person probably and would have theoretically a chance to observe his life, I'm sure he has a couple of things he does.
Oh dear, we've lost him. He might be back, but so getting on the philosophical bent, there was a really good wisecrack thing looking at sort of like modern capitalist society and things like fandom and the things we consume. Like in capitalist society, we actually are, like our identity is actually identified by the things we choose to consume and choose not to consume. And I think I see a lot of hate towards sort of Rolex and buying Rolex because I think fundamentally people don't identify as someone that would ever want such a thing. Now that might be a cope because maybe they're not in a position to buy such a thing. But the person, say, buying a G-Shock and driving a Toyota and, having a really, really good condition body and dating all the time, whatever. This is what defines them. You know what I mean? The things that they chose. They want to do it without those accoutrements, right? Now, no doubt a sports car and a Rolex would not put him on the back foot if he had all those genetic things as well, but he wants to do it in that way, and that's sort of an identity thing. And everything you buy is actually effectively part of your identity. Like I talk to people about like security and privacy, and one of the big things is actually the credit cards. And a credit card lists everything that you've bought if you're putting everything on your credit card. And I could probably tell more about you just by looking at your credit card bill and what you purchased than you even really know about yourself. I think you do some pretty serious psychoanalysis just by looking at someone's credit card bill. Anyway, we got a little bit more cope here. We got some truth bomb here. We've got Omega is garbage. I'd say this is accurate. Accurate and then not accurate. Okay, all right, it's still a luxury watch. It's still very nice. Okay, fine. We've got, it's probably because it has a classy look and is high end, but another one just for picking up girls. What do you have? I was asking what watch that person has, because they were saying the 21-year-olds don't recognize it. Hey, maybe he's just got steel and he just, I wonder what watch he has. Yeah, ultimately, that was a big one. I wonder what watch he actually has. Green text, not just using a phone to check the time. Yes, we've got the truth bomb of utilitarianism here, and that is that you can just use your phone. Okay, recommendation. Buy a fake NW Big Rolex Submariner. I'm guessing this is like a replica maker. Hey, welcome back. Oh, we got real stream here. We got real stream set up.
Disaster.
High quality.
Yeah, I lost. My battery is shot completely. That phone doesn't work. I mean to say, I'm not buying a new phone because I don't believe that having. I'm not insecure. I don't have to have the most recent. Well, bullshit aside, just to add another sentence to that point, I think anyone who is half socially adjusted probably does a few things, has a few items in their arsenal, a few articles of clothing in their wardrobe that they wear, that they use in order to be perceived a certain way, even if it is the complete negative, right? You have these kinds of people in Los Angeles, who are extremely wealthy, but they dress like they are living on the streets.
Right. Yes.
And that's also a status symbol, because those are the kinds of people who at least think they can get away with being seen like that.
Yeah. It is interesting. There's definitely a lot of philosophy around effectively capitalist society and consumption, what you consume, and identity. It's a very deep topic. This next comment here I thought was really good because it's unfortunate. I think it's probably a truth bomb. Just buy a fake NW Big Rolex Submariner, Sea Dweller, or Daytona in steel and call it a day. No need to type $20,000 when $500 to $900 gets you the exact same thing. All right, maybe that's not super true, but if someone says it's not genuine, it's because you're poor and you don't look genuine. This one hurts a fair bit because it's probably true, and it's actually something that's being talked a lot about in the luxury handbags market right now. Like, my wife is sort of slowly getting into that world, and amongst, like, say, top influencers and YouTubers, they're talking about this topic, that at the very highest ends of society, there are ladies that are buying fake handbags because they're a lot of trouble, telling the difference at a high end. We're not talking about like $50 knockoff. We're talking about, $500 to $900, maybe $1,000 knockoff. And ultimately, no one would ever question whether or not they had a real deal because of who they are and what else they wear. And I don't truly know about watches, but it's probably true. I think I could spot a fake in casual distance, but certainly not someone I wasn't talking to or, could literally look at their watch.
We live in strange times. I mean, and I don't say this very seriously, but a little bit ironically, because you started by saying, Ozzy, that perhaps they have a perception of Rolex as a blingy watch, as something probably in precious metal, which really means 18 karat yellow gold, so on and so forth. But now, a lot of the most covetable, a lot of the most prestigious, most hyped up timepieces are stainless steel, right? I'm not saying that there is not another niche, maybe even above this level, where people go after, pink gold APs and whatever else. But, the average covetable iconic model is a stainless steel Daytona, is the 5711, is the Royal Oak Jumbo. So when it comes to that, these, especially from that safe distance you're talking about, these are much easier to fake, aesthetically speaking. You get a few visual cues right. They might be mistaken for the real thing, except for, save for a close inspection.
For sure. I mean, and context probably matters more than the physical aspect. So, like if I'm in, TJ Maxx and there's like an overweight lady with, effectively garbage clothing, and I'm not judging, I'm just like, I wear garbage too. And she has Cartier, yellow gold Cartier jewelry, head to toe. I'm not likely to think it's genuine, and I'm not a jeweler, right? So context does matter a whole lot.
So are you admitting that the Crocs you wear on a regular basis are garbage? Is that what you're saying?
I think more recently, Crocs have been elevated just a little bit.
By which
No
you
discount.
mean
No discount on Crocs anymore.
by which you mean you spray painted them or something?
No. I mean, they've literally gone from nobody buying them. Every time I see a Crocs outlet, it's like they're the busiest outlet in the mall.
Are they the new Birkenstocks? Maybe are they the new?
I guess so. They've definitely come back into fashion again. And what seems to be true is like a lot of people are customizing them. So like I was at the airport, I'm like, I looked this way, I was like, oh, someone's wearing Crocs. Oh, they've customized them. That's crazy. And then I look over there, someone's wearing Crocs. So yeah, there's a lot of Crocs wearers.
You were on the vanguard with that, customizing Crocs. I mean, you have even a whole YouTube short, I think, where you go through the...
No, well, I'm late to that one. I never customized them prior to that, but I saw what was in fashion was to actually customize them. So I was just following on that one. But anyway, on the fake one, this one's unfortunately, I think it's a truth bomb that one of the biggest tells, and I was talking to someone else and it was a slightly different topic, but I could tell everything that they're wearing was fake because they're a fake person. You know what I mean? Like that's what he was saying. Like he could tell that they were a fake person, that everything about them was a lie. And the reverse is true. So in one way, what he's saying here is really true, that the level of fakes these days can be scary even for someone looking at them in close inspection, especially if you're willing to actually spend up to this kind of money, like not just limping in at under 500. We're talking get to 1,000, get to 1,300, that sort of range. It'll be scary close. But what isn't going to really come through is whether or not you're the right person, I think. And that was one of my hesitations when I was originally looking to buy a Rolex when I was 25. And that was, I had the potential impression that either someone thought I would be some sort of like trust fund kid or something like that it wasn't really money that I had earned, or I was too young, and that it was just clearly going to be a fake. So even though I had the real thing, the context was really not going to add up. And, I was younger, right? So external validation was important to me, right? And I just felt that this wouldn't get that. I'd spend a lot of money on this, and people would either see, who gave him that, or, it's a fake.
I think when it comes to that, I'm not sure if it is something we can resolve, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't start talking about it. But I feel like, we live in a moment of cognitive dissonance when it comes to clothing, luxury, as status symbols, because certainly a lot of these people, even if it's 4chan and whatever else, are really putting it out there in a way where, from an almost American, to American puritanical perspective, we don't like showing off our wealth, even if we are wealthy. And you can say 2-3 generations ago, that was certainly the norm in the US. If you were actually wealthy, if you did come from a very privileged background, if you belong to quote unquote, and I don't mean to offend anyone with this WASP background, it meant that you actually try to dress down, try to buy quality perhaps, but not in a way that ostentatiously signals what that comes from, right? You know, that the worst, well, I mean, the worst thing you can do would be, maybe if you're like a man, you would kind of show, oh, you know, my blazer is J Press too, you know, just to signal that in-group belonging. But I think, you know, we have now so assimilated the kind of signaling that these luxury items have been in culture with capital C now, right? You know, it's so mainstream now, it's hard to call it hip hop culture or Black culture. It's become mainstream culture. It has become now the norm for a lot of luxury brands to be as maximalist, as out there, as obvious as possible with their branding, but do it ironically, kind of. In Virgil Abloh was, of course, the person who exemplified this with his particular genius by putting on specific clothing items in scare quotes, you know, sneaker, or you know, hoodie. So we are still in between, right? You know, so there are a lot of very rich people, new and old money, who now dress like that, who now buy items like that, who love graphic shirts that give out a very explicit message out there. And there are people who still have internalized what was the norm, maybe already 2 generations ago, most recently, which is actually not praxis, so to speak, as young people say. It's not, it doesn't actually obtain in the real world. You know, that those might be some ideals and quote unquote morals some people wish to preserve, but that's not what mainstream as society abides by. Mainstream society today loves ostentatious, explicitly luxurious, maximalist items, you know, whether it's wristwatches or clothing.
It's definitely the zeitgeist. Shamba Basha adds here, why shouldn't someone who lives on a council estate have a Ferrari on the drive? For sure. This one's a bit of a truth bomb. There's one element that I'm going to call out, but otherwise it's a truth bomb. We've got the people I know who buy expensive watches have lower class background. Buying a watch these days makes you look poor or like new money, desperate to show off. I'll put my hand up. I was very poor coming. You know, I'm the first generation in my family that will have any kind of money. I hope not the last, but yeah, I am new money. And desperate to show off? Yeah, it's showing off, I guess. It's a status symbol as much as any other status symbol. I won't say that a luxury watch is not a status symbol. So there's a little bit of a truth bomb. The one thing I will say is that the makes you look poor aspect is an interesting one. It's definitely how we look at, say, you know, being head to toe in gold, right? And even that's how I would put it, that someone, you know, serious amounts of gold on them, that might be their entire net worth. I'm less inclined to think about that when someone's got, say, a relatively expensive steel sports watch, because a couple of reasons. They're not showing it off as much. Like it's so underpowered. Like if all you're trying to do is to show off, the gold is the way to go, right? You learned
that from the professor.
Yeah. So it's the gold is the way to go, especially 24 karat. I don't know who does that. I mean, that's very popular in Asia. But it's got intrinsic value, so you're not losing your money, hopefully. And that's how I see it. It's very easy to slide into all gold jewelry and slide back out, and I see that as being a relatively cheap way of having a very ostentatious status symbol. But someone with a luxury watch, I would never really consider them poor in any way. Now, even if like it's just like putting a watch on a credit card just seems so outrageous that I can't imagine anyone's that silly.
You know, since I already donned the cape of the social justice warrior in the community, I will try to call out this, with your permission, call out this comment in its classism a little bit, because
Which one?
this last one,
Oh, this one.
people who buy
Sorry.
expensive watches have a lower class background. Because, look, we have very precise language, especially on Watch YouTube, about how, I want to get a birth year watch. I want to get a watch to commemorate the birth of my daughter. I want to get a watch to treat myself because I just got a promotion, because I have just been assigned to that corner office that I have been pining for my entire professional career. So there are all sorts of things that middle class, upper middle class, and elite people do to treat themselves, to tell themselves that they have arrived, to commemorate special occasions in their life. Is it so wrong that a person who actually pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, who has actually emerged from a lower class background, who by any metric basically exemplifies the American dream, should we look down upon that person because they wanted to mark their arrival by strapping on their wrist a nice watch?
Good point. And that's precisely the American dream. That you can come with nothing, and through hard work you can get there. So this idea that new money is distasteful, just in of itself, I think is, I'm not really getting it. But I will sympathize with some of the ideas around, like, someone wearing head to toe gold chains probably is not, like, might barely be middle class. It's possible.
How about this now to see if you or even me identify with this? What about someone who has like a $300,000-$400,000 retail Richard Mille on their wrist? Do you judge that person? Do you make certain assumptions about that person as opposed to someone who just wears a nice watch?
For sure, they've got a lot of money. Like, there's no second guessing. There aren't any cheap Richard Milles, really, full stop. So, like, even quote unquote the cheaper one, like, that's not cheap. We're still talking lots and lots of money. And regardless of how you see the taste in the Richard Mille, like, there's just no doubt about it. That is a very, very expensive watch. They're showing that. I would not assume anything about how they made their money, how they arrived there. Like, it doesn't tell me anything. Like, new, old, I really wouldn't make any assumption about that.
Okay. Yeah,
Desperate to show off. Yeah, maybe. But I even put that on myself. Like, even just like any kind of Rolex is like, okay, it's a status. I'm not going to remove that from what it is. That is an aspect of it, and it has to be an aspect of it, because you can get functioning timepieces for a tenth of the price that are very good.
even less
Yes.
a lot of times. I think you are much more consistent than I am. I guess I will first put that out there, because I do judge people who spend that kind of money on a single watch, And I'm just trying to be honest, right? You know, it's not, if I said otherwise, it would have been a lie. But all that being said, like, you know, it's really a matter of the severity or grade of that judgment. Desperate to show off, I don't know. For me, the only person who is really desperate to show off is who wears, like, you know, 2 of those kinds of watches, you know, in a meeting of other watch collectors. You know, clearly they are trying to do something. But all of that being said, I think I come back to something you just now said. If you're wearing a Rolex, you know, don't play any mind games. You are clearly invested in showing something off. It may be your good taste. It may be your you know, shrewd mind in making a choice that's both prestigious and reliable, both in the mechanical and financial sense. But at the end of the day, you are trying to show something. You are trying to do something with that choice.
Right. And you could make a statement with just like a Carhartt, you know, pullover. You know what I mean? Like, to deny that something doesn't make a certain statement, and to deny that statement is either this or that, is just walking around the world with blinders on. You know what I mean? Like, you wear a suit, it says something in different contexts. You wear t-shirt, says something else in different contexts. Now, are you playing to that role or not? That's up to you. But it says something outwardly, regardless.
I'll just say this. I mean, in a state where this is legal, you know, just to have an analogy that's completely in a different field and would still make sense. In a state where this would be legal, you see someone in tactical gear who has an open carry. Where do you think they land on the political spectrum?
Yeah, typically the right.
So, you know, are they trying to signify something by that outfit? Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously. But there is something about turning up a certain way in public. You know, you don't do these things just because.
Yeah. We get this generational stuff here again. Wristwatches are for boomers. Who cares about that shit? What is this, 1920s? Does anyone really need a wristwatch? I check my time on the phone. If I'm going somewhere that I can't reach my phone, I use my Apple Watch. Okay, he kills himself right at the very end for some reason, but for the most part, true. I mean, he's trying to make an appeal to utilitarianism, and then for some reason decides he has to pay money to wear garbage on his wrist.
Hey, what do the young people say? This is based. This is a base take. This is absolutely true. Yeah, wristwatches are for boomers. For fucking sure. Exactly.
This one's good. Personally, I don't give a fuck about watches, but what always makes me giggle is this. Old money and rich people don't wear watches. That's because most of them are from good families or inherited money. They are ashamed to show off. Also, why the fuck would you want to be old money when you aren't? Besides, old money is just a bunch of pedos. This might be true. I don't know.
It's as much as by the way, I mean, if you guys haven't seen the lady who freaks out on the flight, who, you know, please slide into my DMs. I think she's the right amount of toxic, who, you know, and also, you know, good looking. But conspiracy theory aside, at the end there, this is actually a trend, right? The old money, quote unquote, is now a trend that has made the waves in TikTok and other social media platforms, where kids are trying to identify items that make you look like articles of clothing that make you look like your old money. And they're spending too much time. I think they should just go on eBay, buy all the old Ralph Lauren catalogs, and just flip through them. That's the best resource for that. But yes, that is a trend. And I understand, that maybe it might sound fake to someone to look like something that you aren't. It's artificial. But again, a lot of fashion trends are exactly about that, to look like something that you aren't. The question is, can you live up to the image you are presenting, right? If you want to look like a gentleman with the way you dress up, can you actually live up to that image?
Are you LARPing or are you actually a gentleman? Basically.
Yeah.
And for many people, they have a vision of what they want to be, and it takes a while for them to live up to it. Initially, they are LARPing, but maybe eventually you get there. Maybe you buy that rainbow Daytona because it was a good investment and it was offered to you at the AD. And you start wearing it about, and maybe you are that guy who always wanted the rainbow Daytona and is running around, wearing that. You know what I mean? Like, it either becomes you. Eventually, you'll become it. After a period of time, but you can't
base Nietzschean take there.
I'm just a poor farmer who drives a 98 Toyota.
It's true. It's true, by the way.
Yeah. So it is interesting. I did think about this one a little bit, that I could understand this, although I don't think this is the current generation of young people where they'd be afraid to show off the fact that they were born into a lot of money. That just seems fashionable now.
I think, again, yeah, look, again, we have been already raised. This is the cognitive dissonance that I was talking about. We have already been raised by generations of reality TV that have obsessed about the lives of young, rich, and famous. So that's become covetable. That's become aspirational. It's not. Old money used to be aspirational, perhaps 20, 30, maybe even 40 years ago, maybe already 2 generations ago. And you would, if you're not old money, you can't become it unless you marry into one of those families, right? Speaking of the American dream, that's why Schwarzenegger always wanted to marry a Kennedy, right? Because he wanted to belong in that, intensified sense.
Right.
But yeah, nowadays we have been watching Paris Hilton. We have been keeping up with the Kardashians. We have been obsessing about the young, rich, and famous for generations now, that I'm not sure whether showing off is being frowned upon in today's day and age as it used to be in the days of old, in the days of yore.
I would say it's being capitalized on, as in they're using it as an asset beyond showing off, but they're gaining followings and influence by doing it, and that's not something that really happened in the past, I don't think. Shamba Basher here. Monetizing, yes, yeah. Shamba Basher here. The problem starts when you open your mouth. In the UK, don't know about States, it gives away your background before your watchers do. Yes. I remember working in finance in London, and there was a lady that was sent over to us to tell us about effectively our 401k plan, because we were changing provider, and she had this sort of East London accent that was just hilarious. I couldn't believe, I'm being, I don't know, bigoted in this case or whatever. And she had just the strongest, most lower class accent. It was insanely bad. And I felt sorry from the perspective of I don't know what to say. It was just, if I was in the same position, I would attempt to alter my accent, honestly. I know that's very, very difficult, but I try not to put on the strongest accent that I have in most circumstances, and I know what gives me away more than others. But yeah, it is a big thing in the UK for sure, that you know where they're coming from based on their accent. But you know, I don't know what to say about that, because there's certainly wealthy people with Cockney accents as an example, right? So it's not, it's a stereotype. It's not really true, but the range is very wide there in the UK.
You know, I don't know. Again, I don't want to generalize too much, but I feel that's UK is more sane when it comes to class, in the sense that they actually carry it on their sleeve, right? They do have all these stereotypes about people's accents, people's names, even. That again, I'm not going to single out any name, but people would say, like, this and that woman's name is lower class, that and that man's name is actually higher class, and whatever else.
Right. I mean, it's just, it's not the new world. It's not America, where the expectations are that someone can get to wherever they want. You know what I mean? You're supposed to stay in your lane in the UK. Doesn't matter how much money you ever earn, you'll never be better than middle class. And that's that.
But I think that's, again, like, I'm making probably an ignorant comment, but at least that's self-conscious. That's whereas we are in the US inhabiting this cognitive dissonance. Again, I've used this word too many times, but we are pretending that there are no classes in the US, that to suggest anything otherwise is to conduct class warfare, which again is an interesting term to use. If there are no classes, how do you conduct class warfare? Like, shouldn't work, right? But yeah, we refuse to recognize that people are judged in the US by their socioeconomic status, even though it is the case that they are on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Big Meech throwing some hate for our UK people. I don't know if I should be offended or not. UK is full of buck teeth fish looking people. Thank you, Meech. Absolutely, Brando. Hence all the title crap like Lords and Ladies and Sir Lancelot. Yeah, I know they give out the Sir Lancelot one out a lot, too often.
That's the thing, though. I will, this would be my hot take, right? We are, in fact, in the US, we stick to this very racialized, ethnicized language when we talk about issues of social justice, at the expense of socioeconomic issues, at the expense of issues of class. And that's it. I mean, to me that should actually override. If we want to have a serious conversation, that should be what we focus on. But obviously we get bogged down on these hot topic, hot button issues every time an electoral season comes around, and we have to divide everything, like, right down the middle.
Yeah. So this next one was actually pretty interesting. This one I had to think about a lot, actually. And so they're saying, spend 6 figures on a wrist noose to let everyone else know that you are a particularly fancy slave.
Bars.
I thought this was particularly good in that in no way does buying luxury goods signify you escaping any aspect of the system. You know what I mean? You're like, there's no rebellion here. It's conformity to the max, and a pretty predictable one too, So I thought this was a hard truth bomb to digest. This one I won't go into, but this one is actually a little bit smart in that talking about certain people that just have an attitude. But the reality is like there's an ongoing meme that I love where you've got rich people and they're just like treating people like they're worth less. And then you've got very rich people who are actually polite and really good. And I think that's roughly summarizes some parts of my experience. There's some people who get like just an inch of anything, and they just run way too hard with it. And then there's people who have like untold fortunes or untold power, and they're just chill, and they're just genuinely happy to be a nice person, basically.
Oh, I love Shamba's retort to Meech. Can you pull that up, please?
Here we go. At least those buck teeth are our own, Meech.
It's true.
No veneers here.
Yeah, the opposite of that stereotype is that all the Americans have fake smiles, and you can interpret it in any way you want.
It's yeah, that is a very big cultural difference. We were telling our au pair that if she doesn't want to do something, that we're doing, as in like a family event, you can just tell us. You don't need to make excuses. I said, that might not be good advice if you had an American family, but we're Australians. You can just tell us you don't like that thing. You don't want to go to the farm and pet some animals. That's fine. This guy, here we go. Wow, the nice trailer I live in, mortgage free, costs less than that watch. I get a forever weekend while you are paying off a mortgage on a fucking watch. Let me guess, you need more? This is based. I'd love to be in the position. Sorry?
Isn't this Nebulite? This is Nebulite. Right?
This is Nebulite. Well, I think he has to finish remodeling that van, and then he'll try it out, and then he'll figure out if he can live in it. That's a few steps removed. This guy's already doing it. This guy's living the dream already.
I still can't. I mean, again, save me from my madness, but I still can't believe that he chose that over a Lange one. That's mind blowing. in my stupid little autistic world of horological obsession, I still can't believe that someone might get a van instead of a nice watch, but that's just me.
I'm just gonna quickly throw an invite to people to the Discord. So if you don't know, we hang out on a Discord or two. This is one you can join. It's the one that I moderate, and that is I explicitly don't moderate, but certainly participate, and you can always chat about fun stuff on there.
The only moderation is the kind of judgment you will receive from me when you post in the wrong category. That's as moderated as it gets, and I have absolutely no rights of messing about with any messages, so you'll be just fine.
Yeah. But I mean, this guy's good. Like if you know what you want in life and can achieve that, that's just the best. I'm trying to figure that out with my wife, trying to figure out what our exit plan is, and the biggest one is like, I don't know when we stop. You know what I mean? That's what everyone is trying to figure out. If they have a concept of retiring before they're not physically able to continue, it's always about like, is this enough? And in our world, in our culture, it's hard to really call it like when things are enough. The other factor right now is inflation makes any number seem implausible to live on. Even if you're just trying to maintain a certain standard of living, it just seems like things are racing away from us right now. Okay. Rolex, the quintessential I'm forever middle class symbol. Oh, ouch. Ouch.
Turns out so bad.
Yeah, no. I mean, in England, it would mean something different because, I mean, just because you got like tons of money doesn't mean you would ever be an elite. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it turns out actual rich people buy stuff that's good value and not hype. There are several dozen watches that fit that tag: Omega, Cartier, Tudor, Tissot, Breitling, Sin, even nice Seikos or Citizens. People who appreciate watches with high net worth. I'm going to say don't wear Rolexes either. They can be seen of Piquet, Patek, Blancpain or Chopard or any other 25 unique pieces of art.
Wow. Well, I mean, this is one of those instances when I say like, a little bit of knowledge is much worse than outright ignorance. Like, this is clearly a guy who has read a few blog posts and saw a few things on social media, and now he thinks like, he has the entire thing figured out. Um, look, I mean, it's two who gets two Rousseau references in one watch stream, but I will give you another one. I think a lot of these people have a fantasy about rich people that the Enlightenment had about the noble savage. I don't think they have actually seen these rich people in their lives. It's like imaginary species that these crypto anthropologists have found and have discovered somewhere. What does it mean? What actual rich people? I mean, actual rich people, yes, sometimes buy stuff that's good value. You might say that's exactly what Rolex is, because people have been buying Rolexes
Right.
for generations, and you can even
I think that's the irony in this one, is that he doesn't actually understand that there's a certain, and there's a lot of categories where you get to a certain level that typically is priced like way above like even expensive options. So you get to a certain level that's just extraordinarily expensive, but they behave more like assets, and in that way they're good value. Now Rolex I actually don't think is one of those. At MSRP, they're delivering a watch that is designed to last your lifetime and many more. So there's just a lot of ways in which, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who've bought a lot of tags that has ultimately cost them more money, in terms of value taken away from the net worth than what I've spent on watches.
Yes, I mean that's exactly it. And also, this I think again, what kind of rich people in what part of the world we are talking about. I don't understand these kinds of statements. Like, there are extensive portraits of British aristocracy. I'm not saying they should be put on a pedestal or something. I'm not trying to say like, these are actually great people, you should emulate them or otherwise. But if you notice a watch on a man's wrist in those photographs, and I have, on my Instagram, some of my early posts are about them. That watch is usually either a Rolex or a Cartier. That's it. Now, you might say that's not what I meant, but again, this is like a whole invented species, actual rich people. What is that? I mean, I feel whenever someone makes a statement like that, they are the ones who buy into this silly image that some billionaires project in mainstream media, like, oh, Warren Buffett doesn't bother wearing a watch, oh, Bill Gates just wears a Casio, or Elon Musk doesn't wear a watch. And
right. Yeah, that really does come from sort of a misunderstanding of who these people are, and who they are isn't just rich. They are CEOs, and they represent a brand, and they're ultimately salespeople of a product to regular people. And it's never a great look to be just dripping in names and trying to sell that to people. Like, you get in trouble for doing that, basically. And if they were more low key, there was no eyeballs on them, they can do whatever they like. But what they wear is designed. You know what I mean? As in, it isn't an expression of their true selves, in, unless that, it can depend, but you have to understand that the company, it has an interest in what the CEO is wearing and what they're doing. Ultimately, they do. and the board will have a quick little chat to the CEO and say, hey, look, you're doing a good job, but we just need you to be low key. And when like tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, guess what? They're going to be low key because they get like another 1,000, stock options in 2027, by being, how would you say, doing what the board wants them to do.
And also, I want to say it's usually the same person, right? Who says, well, Warren Buffett doesn't wear a watch, and Bill Gates wears this obscure Casio and whatever else, from a few photographs they have seen on mainstream media. And that same person, by the way, of course, would be also spinning all sorts of conspiracy theories about everything else that appears on mainstream media, right? So why would you not take anything that the mainstream media feeds you at face value, but your criticism falters at the self-image of Elon Musk, of Warren Buffett, of Bill Gates, of this or that billionaire that you see?
Right.
I think the best example is actually Daniel Craig, right? Before Omega upped his compensation package, he was being photographed with Rolex watches on his wrist on his off days. So now he wears a Moonswatch.
Yeah.
So do you really think that Daniel Craig prefers a Moonswatch over a Rolex GMT Master? I hope you are not as stupid as that, but he is being paid really well to wear that latter watch.
So especially when you're looking after other people's money, it would not become Warren Buffett to not be becoming of Warren Buffett to flaunt as well. So, but with Warren Buffett's really interesting one because that's actually kind of like a shtick. Like, I'm not saying he's pretending, but he's very open about how simple his life is, his day-to-day life. And it's really a shtick. And like you become your shtick, right? Like that's definitely a case after like he's 90, I think, almost 90. So none of us would think that he couldn't afford more. And he just likes the things that he does, and he's very open about that. That's his identity. It's more than just I don't think a Rolex is nice. Like, that's not what he's saying. Okay, I like this one over here as it talks about our confusion in terms of the term of what OP said about soft power. I have hard power in terms of my cock in your ass. I did do the American accent on that one. Okay, so that's what hard power is. I get it.
Honestly, I think what I would theorize about hard power is the kind of black pill take that early poster had. That if you have the abs, if you have if you have the bone structure, if you have the chiseled jaw, if you have those kinds of giga chad features, that's hard power. And you don't need soft power, or rather soft power are those things, are those material possessions that you can use to supplement, complement, or otherwise enhance what you have in terms of hard power. I guess that's what it means, because
Sure.
that was just to remind everyone who tuned in later, what was the initial post again? The original post, OP?
Yeah. Here we go. About soft power. You have zero soft power in terms of business, work, or dating if you don't have a Rolex. So we get to this post, and I've scanned this thread before, and this post is probably the best post.
Is that your wrist, Oz?
I don't have the consolation toner.
Cope toner.
The Cope toner. Okay, and look, this guy, like, he rolled 555-00333. He rolled trips. This is like a high energy post, guys. Like, the chances of him getting a trips is like 1 in 100. So this is very special post. And he's responding to all the people saying, oh, watches, meh. And he says, smells like absolute cope from a bunch of fucking cucked, wristlet, manlet brokies. If you can afford one, you should get one. Anyone saying otherwise can sniff the shit plastered in my toilet after wiping my ass with my hand decorated with a stainless steel Daytona. The actual wealthy class of men all have unique watches, not some generic Datejust or black sub Rolex, Patek, or any other brand where the MSRP costs 10K plus. Preferably, you need to flaunt a stainless steel Daytona, GMT, or gold or platinum day date, precious metal Aquanaut or Nautilus, or a stainless steel Royal Oak minimum. Otherwise, you can smell the broke you give off.
Based.
I'm going to say, ouch. This one's a bit of a truth bomb.
I mean, look, it's this guy certainly came of age in the recent social media flourishing of watch collecting. So he knows all the right codes. He knows all the nice keywords. And he has a good watch. I mean, I can't, like, you can't talk it down because you have the Panda, but I think
No, it's a fantastic watch.
That's a pretty good piece to get from the current Rolex catalog, except, of course, it's not current anymore, but it might make it even more desirable, right? That's the old Rolex story. The minute things get discontinued, if the public doesn't consider the new one an upgrade, the old ones start actually being sold on a premium. But he's kind of right. Some of it is actually cope. When people say, hey, who cares about watches? We will never know, and that's the beauty of internet anonymity, right? We will never know which people actually mean what they say and live what they say, and others who are really trying to cope because they can't afford it.
Right. I mean, this might be similar of saying, like, who cares about yachts? Those are silly. I can get there faster with a plane ticket or something like that,
Right.
So I do like the watches that he's selected. Correct. The sub doesn't cut it. The cheapest one that gets in here is the GMT, but is probably accurate. This list is probably complete. In terms of, like, he's trying to say, like, there's clearly more expensive watches than mentioned here, but this is just sort of in terms of the mainstream, he's probably got it down.
Can you share this thing for a minute, like one short paragraph?
Oh, yes.
So this is like a short essay that was published in N+1 magazine, I think by one Roger White, called "How Artists Must Dress." And I won't go through the entire thing, but it does speak through that very specific lens about the social signification and social significance of how one puts themselves together. So towards the end, he writes this profound paragraph. The affluent artist may make a gesture of class solidarity by dressing poorly. She is advised to keep in mind that at an art opening, the best way to spot an heiress is to look for a destitute schizophrenic. Middle class or working class artists, the destitute and the schizophrenic, can use this principle to their social advantage.
That's amazing.
So all of this goes to say that some of these people may actually be galaxy brain, and they have such base takes that horological nerds, such as the two of us, can't even begin to comprehend. But sometimes, it's Occam's razor. The easiest explanation is the correct explanation. They're really trying to cope. And, we can see through the act of a destitute schizophrenic who just happens to be that. There's there's nothing, there's no facade. That's who they are.
That's fantastic. So responding to that very based 333, like this hits a chord of everyone here. So you'll see people responding. The destined truth. This one says this. All the wealthy at my local country club wear 30K plus Rolexes. This one's actually an interesting one. I would say this is like 100% true. Like, country club involves golf and pools and stuff like that. I would say Rolex is actually the only watch you should wear to a country club. I mean, yeah, there's more expensive watches, but the problem is you're literally playing sports and stuff like that at a country club. So, Rolex. This one was very good. I can afford a Rolex, but I don't own one because I'm not a person who wears jewelry. I could see the time on my phone. This guy's very based. Very based. That's fine.
Yeah. Man, I mean, look, again, I'm trying to be as charitable as possible, because at the end of the day, I love watches. I can see myself perhaps having like a tennis bracelet. I have worn chains before, like, kind of like Hamsa and Star of David sort, not, anything too ostentatious. But I always cringe when I see a young man who is ostensibly straight wearing a pearl necklace, right? So, so I have also my own boundaries,
Standard, yes.
my own standards when it comes to that. So for me to antagonize this take would be, for that reason, a little hypocritical. But, I feel, again, it's major cope. Are you really that foolish to think that anyone wears a watch to actually tell time? Come on.
Yeah.
We are
you sound like a broke to me in response to the guy saying he doesn't buy one just because he chooses to. Watches are for status, you retard. You'll never make it. You'll always be a cuck wage slave watching your future girl get pounded by some dominant bull.
This is, by the way, a red pill theory, right? What is it? The alpha fucks, beta bucks. They call it, like, in the sense that the alpha males are always going to get the girls, but some of those girls, at least some of those girls, will end up marrying the beta later, because it provides them that kind of stability and security, and they think the beta won't cheat on them. So, so that's.
And then we have someone trying to be the alpha of all. He goes, laugh my fucking ass off. The only thing cringier than a Rolex is a smartwatch on a man. It's like, okay, maybe true. So I think this was, so here we go. This was one of my favorites. This is the number one base take was 333 up here. It was just incredible. This is the ultimate cope. I hate to break it to you, but as an actual successful person who primarily interacts with other successful people, the only timepiece you will see on anybody's wrist these days is an Apple Watch Ultra.
And of course, it had the wrist shot with it.
We got the California dial, is that what?
That's right.
Oh.
Desperation.
Apple Watch Ultra tells the world you live a high-performance active lifestyle. It's for people who crush meetings during the work week, then climb mountains or scuba dive with their friends on weekends. I've taken
It's
mine hiking, sailing, camping, diving to the beach, and I've dressed it up with leather straps
this
for
this
charity
read,
glass nights out.
this reads like the worst Rolex marketing copy, by the way.
The only people who like Rolexes are normies who fell for expensive equals good meme. Woo! Okay, this is a cope on a very, very poor level. So they actually want a status symbol and just chose very poorly and decided to wear literal trash. You know, this thing will be in trash in 1 year or two, depending on what. Like they don't have sentimentality about this piece. Well, they might, but I'm sorry, all this I've taken this everywhere will be replaced when the Ultra Watch 2 comes out, and you got to put this one in the bin. Just this is yeah, this is the correct comeback. Nice children's toy. That watch is an advertisement for bulls that they're allowed to fuck your girl.
At least he's realistic. What I wanna say though is, again, I feel like I feel that people really don't understand the kind of racket that they're buying into when they buy into Apple. And I'm saying this as someone who has a MacBook, who has an iPhone, etc. But it is a racket. You end up buying your watch from them, you end up buying your phone from them, you end up buying your personal computer from them, and you end up renewing these items through them, from them, perpetually. So in fact, you make more of an investment in terms of your money,
Right.
because every year or two, well, every year certainly, you will have to replace one of these items with them, because they are made to perish, because they are made to become obsolete in short succession. So you are in fact paying more money to Apple for these status symbols, which have become kind of the entry level at any rate, than what you would pay for one good watch. So if you're
Yes.
actual successful person who takes such great care of money and who knows where to put it to get the maximum out of it, you would have actually gotten one good watch.
Yes.
And that's
And
it.
and that's a really
And an
good point.
Android
I mean,
phone.
they're not just saying this is the new superior status symbol. He's saying it's a good status symbol that isn't expensive. Like he is saying, I paid less money to get a status symbol as good as your status symbol. It's like, I now look, I don't doubt that the Apple Watch Ultra is a status symbol. It is. Like it's completely unnecessary. It's effectively their first good take at doing a luxury version of an Apple Watch, because they had the ones that had like the designer bracelets that cost $1,000 more and stuff like that. That's pretty fail. But the Ultra is on a lot of people's wrists, and you know that there's really no real reason to have the Ultra for most people. I see it on very overweight people a lot of the time. I don't really think that this is like the
Are you calling
ultimate.
Meech out? He has an ultra. Meech is quite lean.
No,
Takes good care
sure.
of it.
Well, I see it in Vegas all the time. It is a status symbol, but I mean the idea that the extent of dressing it up with a leather strap, it's like, oh, it's poor. So let's take a look at some of the responses, because this gets the appropriate amount of hate. We got someone pointing out the Fisher Price version. Now that's an embarrassment. Disgusting. The overpriced MacBook is the cherry on top. Cringe. And another person calling all of these people broke. So I think there aren't too many more in this list that improve upon the ultra-based 333 post And then the Ultra Cope Apple Watch post. Someone advocating for some Tissos here, that's fine, but saying it's better than a date just because it's more accurate, it's like, oh, come on now. Let's let's
Biff,
stop with that.
Biff has a great point in
Oh,
the chat.
yes. My phone is designed to irritate me if I don't pay for luxury features like ad block and added virus protection. I'm 100% with you, Biff. I mean, I used to actually like smartwatches. I had the first gen and the second gen Moto 360s. And in those two generations sort of peaked for me in terms of smartwatch. It did notifications, communication just fine, had actually a round screen. But then things went downhill, man. Just like they didn't get better. We're still always talking about battery life and the fact that they don't turn on properly when you move your wrist over, and they're trash. They're trash. It's like ultimately they're trash. And I don't mean they're trash when you buy them. I'm just saying in 1 to 2 years it goes in the bin. Literally the bin. You're literally wearing trash. Like I don't understand how that can be elevated to a status symbol. Now, I'm not going to deny that people use the Apple Watch as a status symbol, but I hope all these people will buy a nice watch and stop trying to be distracted and disoriented and just develop a healthy dose of attention deficit disorder by wearing that watch.
Yeah, honestly, I think wait a second.
No worries. You're back.
What Biff said is actually one of the best arguments that you can make for mechanical wristwatches. I mean, or for wristwatches in general that are not smartwatches. Because ultimately, it is a luxury to be able to disconnect, at least at chosen times, at times where you have such privilege. So to have to wear an Apple Watch means that you have to stay on the grid at all times. Hey, you can tell me that, like, I can turn it off, no notifications and whatever, but that's all extra effort. That's all cope, to put it in the simple.
Right. That's definitely cope. I mean,
so the ultimate luxury is to be off the grid, to be disconnected, to just chill for a moment. I remember, I was, when I was still an athlete, we used to do a lot of sessions with, at that time, this was technology, we used to wear like these polar, straps and wear the wrist watch that goes with that, which used to give you your heart rate. And I would hate that, right? I know my pace. What is this bullshit? Why do we have to quantify it? Why do we have to be so precise about? Who cares? So I know I'm prejudiced in that regard. Like, I would rather not count the number of steps I take during the day. I would rather not know what my heart rate is at a given point in time. And I would rather not take any calls or have to read my emails on my wristwatch. I would rather just enjoy my watch as a luxury, because it gives me the feeling, no matter how stupid and sappy and metaphysical you might think it is, it gives me the feeling that I am in charge, that I am in control of my time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like the wristwatch because it's like an escape. It's a tiny little escape where I look at it. It doesn't exist for any other reason than to please myself, and it's never going to fail me, hopefully. But no, there is nothing more impotent and annoying than a dead watch. And the number of times I've experienced that while wearing a smartwatch was very high, and nothing feels more stupid than that. Having something, quote unquote, watch on your wrist that isn't actually working because it's run out of batteries by lunchtime is incredibly impotent feeling. And meanwhile, every time I look at one of my nice watches, and that can be a Seiko, It's always fun. It's a little bit of an escape every single time, and that's far more valuable to me than being able to see my notifications on a second place.
I was loving that background sound. That's why I started laughing. You don't have to mute it.
No, my I think my daughter's stalking me. She's gonna make an appearance soon.
Is it almost time? Will you have to go?
Yeah, I think we've looked at all the base posts and all of the cope, and this was really enjoyable. Thank you so much for coming on. I couldn't go through it on my own.
I love the tag that you brought up and that you set as the thumbnail to that watch. And to me, look, this tells an entire story. I mean, this is the kind of tag. I don't know if he ever wore the two-tone version, but this is the kind of tag Heuer that you would see on the wrist of the late legendary Ayrton Senna. And imagine how horrid it is as a timepiece. How much of a horological monstrosity it is that even the association with Senna can't redeem it, can't salvage it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, the longer you look at this, folks, the deeper the how despair of ownership this would be. My gosh. You can't even fix it. I mean, look at those lugs. You can't do anything with it. You can't change it. There's nothing.
I mean, I don't even know where to start. And I think it was the perfect choice for the Cope theme, because with all the originality that goes with the design and the execution of the complications and whatever, the handset that is chosen is supposed to resemble Rolex.
It's wild. It's wild.
So this is
the fact is, yeah, it's got the Mercedes heads, and then
this is the embodiment of all Cope. When someone says, "I don't need to own a Rolex, my tag is just as good."
Yeah, 4 pushes and oh my goodness, it's just so much. It's so much. Okay, and with that note, do you have anything last to add here? The tag stuff was nice.
No, guys, I love you all. Thank you for being here on Aussie's channel. We have kind of switched the musical chairs this time, switched the roles. I usually
Thank you for
have
joining
the
me.
privilege to host Aussie on my channel, and it was truly a pleasure to be on his channel for once. So it's nice.
Thank you. Yes, and if anyone doesn't know Lord, although I suspect that's impossible, let me just make sure that I give you the correct shout out here. Actually, you're a mod. Do you want to post your thing there? Is that going to be faster?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's at Young Brando, literally.
Yeah.
So that's my channel. On the
Okay, I posted it. Yeah, and this is not going to be a regular thing. I only did this because it was just a topic that didn't really fit anyone else's stream. I don't want to bomb your stream of such a thing.
No, don't. I mean, look, I don't know. It must be, again, I have that autistic streak of doing one thing and people hesitate to join. But I would rather, even when I'm deep into covering something, I would rather have someone jump on the panel, even if we are going to go somewhere else. So I never want to discourage people unless they are really enjoying themselves watching what I'm doing and don't want to cut that off. I would never want anyone to hesitate. I would rather always have 1, 2, or more people on the panel. That's just better content.
Sure. Yeah. So young Brando here does the streams. This is a rare occasion for me that I'll try host something, but I thought it was going to be a real treat. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Upvote. Don't forget. Take care, guys.